usually advertise on the website, and yes, we can kind of fit things in quieter times, but summer is peak season and I'm usually up to my eyes in it, so I'll not take anything on where a wedding is within that 6-week period. As long as they're further away, it's fine. So actually it's been quite good to, you're under a wee bit more pressure, you know, it's like, well, I need this done in 2 weeks, and it's hardly pressure just now because customers are thin on the ground, believe me, but it's made work a wee bit different, you know. I've kind of had to get things in place a wee bit quicker than I normally would, but it's been quite enjoyable, really. I mean, there have been limitations. I kind of you know, get a lot of fabrics and things a lot from, you know, a lot of UK suppliers, but I also have a couple of suppliers, one down in Australia, that I sometimes get things from, and within, you know, the kind of 6-week period, or you know, a customer comes to me, you know, a few months before the wedding, that's fine. You know, if I have to get fabric from there, it's not a problem delivery wise and things that will get here, but with the much shorter time frame, it's not possible. So I am kind of more limited on materials, but you know, there's still plenty there, but it has made a bit of a difference to, you know, operations, if you like. But yeah, the deadlines is a biggie for me. So when, you know, like I said, the few customers that I have had over this last period and the ones that are, you know, coming in the next couple of weeks and so, it's great. I'm so excited because I know I've got to get something, I must get it done for a customer, you know. So yeah, it's not so much the routine for me, but definitely the deadlines. I need somebody saying this is the date in the diary, you must get it done, you know.
I think that's a big challenge for a lot of us running small businesses, is we don't have a boss, we're our boss. So as much as that's very nice, yeah, in some ways, it is hard. And I'm the same. So if I go out and shoot something, obviously I'm there whatever date I'm booked for, and then I give people a window of when I'll have their images back to them. Sometimes it's a very quick turnaround. If they need, I shot some products for somebody last week and they needed them right away for the website, that's fine. Sometimes it's a longer turnaround, but I always have that date in the diary. I promise this will be done by this date. I need to get it done. But it's the behind the scenes stuff, as you say. It's that I'm going to work on my website, I'm going to update my portfolio, and it's things that are maybe a little bit more tedious or time consuming, or not my favorite tasks. The creative stuff is what I enjoy the most, and the other stuff is kind of, a lot of it I admittedly don't love to do, and it gets put on the back burner. So this is something where I think having a business coach, or I think there are people that are just accountability coaches or things like that. I don't currently have one, but it's something that I'm budgeting for next year, because I think to keep my business growing and to really stay on top of things, I think that would be so beneficial for me, because I do struggle with procrastinating. If it's not work for clients and it's just work for the business, it gets put on the back burner time and time again.
Yeah, I'm the same all the time.
Well, at least it's not just me. I think that is a lot of us. And I think that's why so many small businesses are trying to find a business coach or some kind of a mentor or coach who can kind of keep them in line and help them with the next stages, because it's too easy to let that fall by the wayside. And admittedly, the customer stuff should take priority. I'm glad that, you know, that is the stuff that I kind of keep top of schedule. But yes, I definitely think I could do with a little bit of improving with the behind the scenes and sticking with it. Now, on that note of talking about things that maybe could be done better, that we'd like to do better, is there anything that you have learnt the hard way since starting your business?
Yes, loads.
You had to pick one.
Okay. Yeah, one of the biggest lessons for me, which I learned at the start, and I'm glad I did, was not to undersell your products or undervalue your products, and price them properly. When I initially sort of did the markets and things, which was more of a hobby than a business, I already knew I wasn't really making money out of them, but I didn't have to. It was just a little thing on the side. And when, you know, the kind of decision came to actually, no, let's do this properly, let's think about making it into a proper viable business, changing the business model, changing the business name, I knew I had to sort of, you know, change the pricing structure, look at prices properly. And I have to say, the business name change and whatever helped with that. There's, you know, people say to me, you know, you can always put your prices down, you can't put them up. You know, people won't buy that, people won't accept that. So, you know, with it sort of becoming a different business, you know, when I sat down and I did kind of apply a lot of what I did project management wise and pricing wise from my old job, in terms of knowing, you know, about, you know, time cost and whatever and all that, trying to work that into it. So the actual you know, what I was charging for a bespoke hat that had been designed for somebody to match their outfit, you know, to go through colour matching processes, maybe even dyeing fabrics and things like that. There's a lot more labour involved in it than just putting something together from fabric that I have in the house that, you know, there we go, that'll do. And looking at a lot of different milliners and things across the UK, there's a massive, massive range in prices. You know, you've got your sort of mega famous, you know, Philip Tracy's and Stephen Jones of the world, you know, that are able to charge a hell of a lot more money than I do for hats. But, you know, and then there's also a lot of hobby milliners as well, that you see. And Etsy kind of, you know, has obviously spawned a lot of that kind of generation, although there's a lot of, you know, proper viable businesses there too. But you can see things that I can look sometimes at something that's been made, and I can see that somebody's maybe charging, you know, £40 for it, and you know, I just couldn't do that. You know, the materials probably, the length of time that it took you to do it, but also if it's been designed specifically to go with somebody. I've had them, you know, in my house for an hour, hour and a half, going through a consultation process. I then spend time sourcing materials, designing the hat for them, back and forth. All of this stuff kind of needs to be taken into it, and that. I'm glad I did that from the start of the new business, if you like, because very, very quickly I would have realised I wasn't making any money whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, I also kind of see a lot of people that are trying to make proper businesses out of this kind of a thing, when you think, why, how are their products so cheap? How are they managing to do it? And you know, you kind of sort of pick up on these things, you know, for a year or so, and then they kind of disappear, and you wonder if they've just, you know, the business has, not necessarily the business has failed, or people have just, you know, decided actually it was just a hobby, I'm not continuing to do it. You know, the pricing thing is really, really hard initially, because you think, actually, that's a lot of money. You know, is somebody going to actually pay that for a hat? But you know, they do, and that was something that it took me a while to have the confidence to sort of stick with, and I'm really, really glad that I did. A couple of, you know, kind of friends and other businesses and things had said, you just need to find your customer, that, you know, the person that comes in and maybe wants to spend, you know, £40 on a full wedding hat, that's not your customer. You know, that's not the person you're looking for. You know, they can be directed to, you know, somewhere like, you know, I don't know, Debenhams or something like that. They may well find it, and you just have to kind of have the confidence to sort of stand strong with that and go. And I did have a few awkward situations initially where people had come out, you know, to the studio and sitting going through things, and then when you mentioned what that was cost, you could kind of see their face fall, you know. So kind of, you know, elaborated and changed, and you sort of tried to preempt that problem. And now when a customer gets in contact with me, I mean, the prices for like a lot of the collection stuff is on the website anyway, so people get an idea of what the range of my costs are. But I always send, with the initial email, it's usually, you know, a couple of explanations as to how to go about things, what happens when they come out for a consultation, and I'll always send it, you know, the price range in there as well. This is normally what we're looking at from X to Y, from A to B, whatever, and I'll, you know, put in a price indication as to, you know, a small hat looking like this may cost X amount, you know, to give them a bit of an indication. And if I don't hear back from that customer again, that's fine, because they were never going to spend that money, so I was never going to be able to make anything for them within their budget without me actually making a loss. So that was very hard at the beginning, to be like, oh God, maybe I should just put my price down, or I'll just knock £50 off that. And I didn't, and I'm really, really glad I didn't, because I now kind of know that I have a route to customers that are willing to pay what it costs to make a hat, you know, and that's why, you know, they're getting something bespoke, something specifically designed for them, and that's kind of what makes a difference. It's fitted to them, it's matched to their outfit, and that's that. And there's nothing wrong with people that want to, you know, go and buy a £20 fascinated or something or whatever from the likes of Accessorize. That's fine. People don't always have the budget, you know, for an expensive wedding hat, and it's great that these things are available for people to do that, and that's absolutely fine. It's also one of the reasons I introduced the rental service as well, although this all just started in March, and obviously March everything changed, so we're kind of yet to see how that'll go. But the idea was that there are people out there that would, you know, understandably don't want to spend that amount of money on a bespoke hat, or you know, sort of young girls maybe in their, you know, mid to late 30s whose friends are getting married might spend quite a bit on a wedding outfit, but they're certainly not going to spend a lot of money on a hat. So if they hire one, you know, it's far cheaper, and it's a more sustainable way to do things as well. You know, people might buy a hat, they're probably not going to wear it, you know, more than, you know, a handful of times. There are core hat fans out there who will keep their hats and will rewear them and rewear them, and that's great. But the vast majority of people don't. They get it for a wedding and that's that, and it's a bit wasteful, really, you know. So the rental option is there for people to do that. But that was a big, long way of telling you about pricing.
I think that's a really good one, because I think that's a struggle for a lot of people. And I see it's the same in photography. You get this huge range of prices. There's people that are charging, maybe what I can't see how it would be a sustainable business. And it's true, we all have to start somewhere. And admittedly, when I started out, I was a lot cheaper than I am now. And there are people that are a lot more expensive than I am, but I think it's figuring out your own cost of doing business and being honest about how many hours go into something. Because I think for a lot of people, especially with something for you have a product, but people don't see all of the hours that it takes to plan and to create the product. And similarly for me, people think, oh, that's a lot of money for a 1 hour photo shoot. But they don't think about all the time that goes into planning that shoot, all of the time and money that I have spent training and on equipment and on insurance and all of that. And then the editing time afterwards. When I look at a 1 hour shoot, it's not an hour, it's 8 to 10 hours sometimes by the time you go through the whole process.
Definitely, yeah, that's absolutely. And I'm quite lucky that quite a few of the customers that have come around for bespoke stuff do seem to get that. Like I said, I've managed to lose the sort of awkward situations where people have come over and expected to pay a lot less. That's kind of gone now as a part, due to the change in my communications, where I've made that clear from the start. And it is great that there are so many people that do actually recognise and value the sort of the time and the skills and whatever that go into it. So it makes such a difference.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one to point out, especially for people starting out that are maybe feeling a little bit scared to charge what they know they need to charge to grow a business. Or even those of us that are still in the growing changes. It's something every year I revisit my cost of doing business, and I look at, equipment upgrades, and my insurance has doubled because I've got more expensive equipment now, things like that you need to kind of stay in mind. So that's a good one for anyone in any stage of business. So thanks for that.
Not at all, not at all.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your story and telling us a little bit about what you do. I've learned a lot because, as I said, I've never met somebody who does what you do before. So it was really interesting to kind of hear about that process and how you got into it and how you learned and built up a business and left quite a stable career to do so as well. So it's encouraging to hear that you've done that and you're on the other side of it and you're still feeling very pleased about the choice you made. So thank you.
Not at all. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. The last thing I'm going to ask you is to just tell us where we can find you online.
Sure. Okay. My website is www.stephaniegallenmillinery.co.uk, and that's got all kind of services and things dotted on there. I also have Instagram, which is Stephanie Gallen Millinery, which is updated far more regularly than my Facebook page. I do have a Facebook page as well, but I'm very, very bad at updating it, so I apologise. You probably better get me on Instagram or something. But yeah, those are the main places to get me. And although content is still on the ground for Instagram just now, thanks to COVID summers, but we're getting there.
All right, so I will put those show links up on the show notes in here as well. And when if you want to check out Instagram, I'll be sharing a few things about Stephanie's business on there too, and you can click through and find her that way. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us, Stephanie, and sharing your story. And I will look forward to seeing what you get up to as we hopefully keep moving out of this pandemic.
Fingers crossed. Thanks very much for having me. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Hello and welcome to the Small Fish Big Podcast. I'm your host Rhiannon Loudon, professional photographer, proud entrepreneur, and big supporter of small businesses. Today is... Hello and welcome to the Small Fish Big Podcast. I'm your host Rhiannon Loudon, professional photographer, proud entrepreneur, and big supporter of small businesses. This is episode 5 of our second season of the podcast, and today I am joined by Stephanie Gallen Millinery. We are well into season 2 of the podcast. This is episode 5 of the second season, which I believe makes it episode 16 of the podcast. Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Rhiannon Loudon, your host.